Hello everyone, my name is Tom Dang, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Sacramento. We would like to take the opportunity to discuss the weather conditions over the past winter, as well as an outlook through at least the early stages of the summer. This winter certainly has been one of extremes. We started the winter season off with a bang, with one of the wettest November and December time periods on record. Then around Christmas time, the storm simply shut off, replaced by a very persistent ridge of high pressure. All told, the 8-station index, which tracks precipitation totals across the northern Sierra, is running right around normal for early April. Additionally, northern California reservoirs are running around historical averages. Let's start taking a look at some maps and charts. Here is a graphic depicting the percentage of normal precipitation for the current water year, dating back to October 1st. We've highlighted two areas to draw your attention to. Considering the dry stretch California has been through the last several months, the northern half of the state has fared remarkably well. Much of the northern half of the state, and especially along the mountains, are running at 75% to 100% of normal. Southern California has not held up near as well this winter, unfortunately. The area highlighted in red has received only 5% to 25% of precipitation for the entire water year. This is a timeline graphic that plots the 8-station Northern Sierra Index. Anytime the dark blue line is above the shaded light blue area, the Northern Sierra has received above normal rainfall. As you can see, especially during the month of December, the Northern Sierra has received bountiful rain and snowfall. However, the storm door closed at the start of the new year. The last several weeks, the Northern Sierra has received just enough rain and snow to keep up with normal. Here is a graphic showing the water levels at the major reservoirs across the state. As you can see, most of the reservoirs are very near their historical averages, marked in red, for this time of year. This is a graphic depicting water supply volume, or the amount of water out of melting snow and flowing into the reservoirs. This is directly correlated to the lack of snowfall that we received between January and March. As you can see, the farther south in the Sierra you go, the less snow there is available to melt. For this year, the peak of snowpack occurred around March 1st, where the normal peak snowpack occurs sometime in early April. Additionally, most of the rivers across Northern California have already had their peak runoff this spring, but that doesn't normally occur until late April or early May. Here's the latest drought picture, compiled by the National Drought Mitigation Center, the Department of Agriculture, and NOAA. As you can see, most of Northern California is shaded at the D0 level in yellow, just below drought levels. This is largely due to the vast amounts of rain that we received back in December. Here's the latest statement from the Climate Prediction Center regarding the El Niño and Southern Oscillation. El Niño neutral conditions have persisted through much of this past winter, and is forecast to continue through at least this summer. This graphic depicts sea surface temperature anomalies, and is the most direct observation of El Niño or La Niña conditions. Typically, with stronger El Niños, you would expect to see very strong warm anomalies off the coast of South America, and cool anomalies along the western Pacific Ocean. This is not the case here, with most of the Pacific Basin not recording much, if any, anomaly. Of note is the slightly warm color along the eastern Pacific, which is residual of the weak El Niño conditions recorded early on in the winter season. This graphic is a plume of various long-range weather models, and gives an idea of where El Niño or La Niña may go over the next several months. There are two things that we can pick out of this graphic. One is that there is a very large spread among the models. That doesn't give us very much confidence in the El Niño forecast moving forward. However, the general trend and cluster of long-range models does tend to be centered right around 0.0. Thus, the forecast moving forward is that El Niño neutral conditions will persist. Now let's take a look at the outlook for later this spring and getting into early summer. On the left is a graphic that depicts the likelihood of above or below normal temperatures in April, May, and June. The graphic on the right also shows probabilities, but for precipitation instead of temperatures. As you can see, the outlook for the next 3 months is that there are equal chances between above, below, and near normal temperatures. However, the graphic on the right states that there is a greater than 40% chance of below normal precipitation. This doesn't mean too much, however, as April, and especially May and June, are fairly dry months across much of Northern California. Looking deeper into our crystal ball, let's take a look at the 6-month outlook, which covers July, August, and September. As you can see, much of the country has a high probability of above normal temperatures for the latter half of the summer. This is pretty far in the forecast period, however, and usually confidence is quite low in these temperature outlooks. However, the Climate Prediction Center has indicated a fair bit of confidence in this forecast. Let's recap what we've talked about in this presentation. We started off with one of the fastest starts on record from a water standpoint. Then that abruptly shifted into one of the driest January through March stretches in California's history. Moving forward, El Niño neutral conditions are expected to persist through at least the summer of 2013. For the next few months, forecast temperatures are trending normal. However, longer-term charts are suggesting that temperatures could heat up for the second half of summer. Water reservoirs in California remain in decent shape as of early April, owing largely to the winter storms back in December. However, our extremely dry January through March stretch has left the Sierra in a large snow deficit. Rivers and streams are already showing poor inflows into reservoirs this month. In the end, reservoirs are likely to trend below normal levels in the upcoming months. The lack of snow has the potential to prolong this summer's fire season and cause extremely dry fuels towards the end of summer. Fire starts will be highly dependent on wind and lightning events, which are an unknown at this time. Drought stress may also become a growing problem toward the end of summer. For additional information, check out the Climate Prediction Center's homepage or our own homepage at weather.gov/Sacramento. You can also check out our growing social media presence on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at the links provided. Thank you for viewing this presentation. If you have any additional comments or questions, the contact information for Dan Keaton has been listed. Thank you, and have a great day.